In the world of film studios, the name LucasFilm is synonymous with decades of unique and masterfully crafted movies. But is that really the case anymore? Over the past few years, LucasFilm has pumped out failure after failure, from their theme park disasters to their terrible movies and TV shows. LucasFilm is slowly driving themselves towards a cliff, and it seems like they won't ever be able to stop themselves. In this video, we will uncover how LucasFilm rose to its dominant position in the filmmaking industry and explore how things went south and how much worse it can get. LucasFilm was founded in 1971 by a little-known director named George Lucas. You know, he's known for a couple of movies that did reasonably well. The first success that Lucasfilm experienced was with the movie American Graffiti. The movie cost them around $800,000 to make, and since its release, it's made around $55 million. Using some of the money he earned from American Graffiti, George Lucas decided to make Star Wars: A New Hope, and it was an unbelievable success. The film cost a decent amount to make at about $11 million in production costs, but its return was unbelievable with a worldwide box office gross of $775 million. With his newfound success, George decided to make another two films in the Star Wars trilogy, The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Combined, these two films made over $1 billion. At this point, George Lucas was a renowned name in the world of filmmaking. No one thought he could top his Star Wars franchise, and they were right. But he still wasn't done creating masterpieces. Together, with the help of Steven Spielberg, he created Indiana Jones, a thrilling adventure movie filled with battle, mystery, and gold. Lots and lots of gold. The three original Indiana Jones movies made over $500,000 and even won Lucasfilm some Academy Awards. With all of the success of its 70s and 80s movies, Lucasfilm went into the 21st century with visions of creating more works of cinematic history, but what happened over the next few decades was quite the opposite. 1999 was the year Lucasfilm started to go south. This was the year they released Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, the first installment in the Star Wars prequels. Now, different people have different views on these three films, but in terms of monetary success for Lucasfilm, they did pretty well. Combined, the three films brought in a little less than $900 million. The main problem with these films is that they showed Lucasfilm was beginning to go down the more corporate route of making movies because they made money, not because they were original, interesting ideas. When they finished the Star Wars prequels, Lucasfilm began The Clone Wars, which in my opinion was one of the better Star Wars TV shows. Around this time, George Lucas also sold Lucasfilm to Disney, which further turned Lucasfilm into a more business-oriented production studio. After being bought by Disney, they released Star Wars Rebels and The Force Awakens. Star Wars Rebels was a great show, I would argue the best Star Wars TV show, and The Force Awakens had a few issues, but it was a decent movie. All in all, these first two projects under Disney's command were pretty decent successes, and what happened next was unheard of in terms of the success that Lucasfilm had. In 2016, they released LEGO Star Wars: The Freemaker Adventures, which turned out to be their most successful show ever. Bringing in a whopping $100 trillion, Disney's share prices rose by over 600 million% in one day. No, I'm just kidding, it was pretty mid. 2016 was also the year Lucasfilm released Rogue One, which was actually a pretty great movie. The story was unique and answered questions that were unanswered in A New Hope, and the characters were really interesting. Following the success, people really thought the Star Wars franchise was going to explode into something new. And it did. It exploded into a chaotic mess of unoriginal, poorly written, incoherent storylines. 2017 was The Last Jedi, which was probably the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen. 2018 was Solo, a Star Wars story, which wasn't that bad, but a lot of people didn't like it. And then 2019 was The Mandalorian, which was an amazing Star Wars TV show that has since turned into this. Now, as you can see, Star Wars wasn't exactly doing too hot, and people knew they had to change something, and they didn't. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, The Bad Batch, The Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, some of the worst shows and movies I've ever seen, all from the same company. I don't believe it. Now, at this point, I don't even know what's happening over at Lucasfilms anymore. I swear they're probably getting the ideas from the Microsoft Bing bot. Anyways, just last month, Lucasfilm released Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I didn't watch it because I read the reviews, and let's just let the reviews speak for themselves. I mean, at the rate it's going, probably the trash. No, but in all seriousness, I don't see a future for Lucasfilm. If I had to guess, Disney will probably just shut it down or sell it back to George Lucas. I think I heard a rumor about a deal between Disney and him, and I think as sad as it is, the great movies of the 70s and 80s that they once produced will just become distant memories of greater days. In a way, the Lucasfilm collapse is a movie of its own, one with a main protagonist that started something small and rose to greatness, but eventually, even the protagonist was powerless at the hands of corporate greed. Our only hope is that one day, maybe one day, a new protagonist will be born who will change the course of Hollywood, just as one random man with a great movie idea did so long ago.